Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you from us here at the ISM, that's the Incorporated Society of Musicians. Thanks to all of you who've joined us for this webinar today, which is delivered by the ISM Trust. And today our subject is about royalties for composers, PRS for music and you. My name is John Robinson, I'm Head of Service Delivery and Systems at the ISM, and with me is Harriet Wybor, Classical Account Manager at PRS for Music. Harriet has kindly offered to explain what PRS for Music does for composers today, and you'll be meeting her after this introduction. Just so you know what to expect from this webinar, Harriet is going to cover these topics: a brief introduction to copyright and why it matters to creative people, some background to PRS for Music and what it does. Harriet will answer the question, royalties for composers, where does the money come from, including international royalties. Harriet also talks about the role of music publishers and how they fit into the PRS for Music scheme of things. And then finally, Harriet will also talk about joining PRS for Music. We are intending to follow this webinar up with a further session in the new year, so watch our webinar page on the website for further details when we're ready. Now, before we begin, just a few technical points for you. You can't see us, but you should be able to see the PowerPoint presentation that we'll be using. You should also be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. So if you have any questions, please type them in the questions box and we'll answer as many as possible at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to view on the ISM's website at ism.org/webinars. The presentation is about 25 minutes long, so we'll have time to answer questions at the end. We hope you'll find this a stimulating and also very practical summary of what's involved in what can be a complex subject. Do let us know what you think. Thanks again to all of you for joining us today. I think we're all set. So without further ado, may I introduce you to Harriet Wybor. Welcome, Harriet, to talk about royalties for composers, PRS for music and you. Thank you, Harriet.
Thank you very much, John. PRS for Music is a not-for-profit organisation which represents the rights of over 124,000 songwriters, composers and publisher members. Our mission is to protect and promote the value of copyright, which is at the heart of what we do. PRS for Music licenses organisations which use or make available copyright music. Whenever music is recorded and distributed to the public, performed in public, broadcast or made available online, PRS for Music collects royalties and distributes them to its members fairly and effectively. We're going to begin by talking a bit about copyright to explain why copyright protection exists and what it means for composers and songwriters. Copyright is a form of intellectual property alongside patents, trademarks and designs. Copyright law is intended to protect aesthetic and artistic creations such as literary, musical, dramatic and artistic works, as well as films, sound recordings, programs, broadcasts, and the typographical arrangement of a published work, which is the way the material is laid out in a book or piece of music. The framework for copyright law is the Copyright Designs and Patents Act 1988, which has subsequently been amended on a number of occasions to cope with new technologies. In the UK, the duration of copyright in musical, literary and artistic works lasts for 70 years after the end of the calendar year in which the creator dies. This is often referred to as life plus 70. The duration of copyright in sound recordings lasts for 70 years from when the recording was first made or communicated to the public. This was extended from the previous duration of 50 years, effective from November 2013. The duration of copyright in a typographical arrangement lasts for 25 years from the date of publication. When you create an original piece of music, it is automatically protected by copyright from the moment you create it. The only condition is that the music must be materially expressed in some way. It's the expression of an idea, rather than the idea itself, that can be protected. When you own the copyright to a musical work, you have the exclusive right to copy the music, issue, lend or rent copies to the public, perform, show or play the music in public, communicate the music to the public by broadcasting it via TV, radio or the internet, or adapt or change the work. If someone other than the copyright owner tries to do any of the exclusive rights of the copyright owner without their permission, this is considered to be an infringement of copyright. There are some limited exceptions to this, which are known as fair dealing exceptions, which exist for the purposes of non-commercial research and private study, criticism, review, quotation and parody, and reporting current events. Copyright protection enables songwriters and composers to benefit financially from their musical works, which in turn enables them to continue to create more works to the benefit of the society that they live and work in. It's arguable that if copyright protection didn't exist and everybody was able to use music freely, it's unlikely that creators would earn any reward for their work, so the incentive or the ability to create new works would reduce or stop completely. Therefore, the rationale behind copyright law is that it's in the general or the public interest to encourage the creation of works that contain information or provide entertainment, and to reward their creators for doing so in accordance with public demand. Technological changes in the last 20 years have brought challenges as copyright laws in the music industry have had to adapt quickly in the face of declining CD sales. But the good news is that the music industry is adapting and thriving. Government figures published at the start of 2016 show that the UK's creative industries are worth over £84 billion a year to the UK economy, and show the sector growing at twice the rate of the wider UK economy, generating £9.6 million per hour. UK Music's Measuring Music 2016 report highlights that the music industry as a whole contributed £4.1 billion to the economy in 2015. PRS for Music is a brand name used to describe two organisations, PRS, the Performing Rights Society, and MCPS, the Mechanical Copyright Protection Society, both of which exist to protect and administer the rights of their members, songwriters, composers, and music publishers. PRS was founded in 1914 and is a private membership organisation owned by its members, and it licenses performance rights. MCPS was founded in 1924 and is a private organisation owned by the UK Music Publishers Association, which licenses reproduction rights known as mechanical rights. Together, PRS and MCPS have over 124,000 members, representing 14.7 million musical works. That's over 100 years of music played back to back. PRS and MCPS are known as collective management organisations or collecting societies, and when a songwriter, composer or music publisher joins PRS or MCPS as a member, they transfer some of their rights, such as communication and performance rights or mechanical reproduction rights, to that organisation to administer by licensing uses of their members' music and collecting and distributing the resulting royalties. PRS for Music plays an important role in protecting the value of copyright in the face of changing technology and evolving legislation, ensuring that its members' music is licensed properly and that royalties are collected and distributed fairly and effectively. PRS for Music is a member of CSAC, the International Federation of Societies of Authors and Composers, which protects the rights and promotes the interests of creators worldwide, and enables collective management organisations to represent creators throughout the world and ensure that royalties flow to creators for their uses of their works anywhere in the world. PRS for Music is regulated by the EU Directive on the Collective Management of Copyright, known as the CRM Directive, which ensures transparency across all collective rights management organisations in Europe. To explain how music is licensed in a bit more detail, PRS and MCPS license a number of different sources of income, including online, broadcast, recorded media, and public performance. Income from these sources overseas also forms a significant part of royalty collection, and we will discuss international income in more detail later on. PRS licenses public performance income, which includes music being played live in concert or in pubs and clubs, as well as recorded music being played in over 350,000 business premises, including hotels and restaurants, shops, cinemas, and industrial premises. For live music, PRS licenses the venues where the music is played or promoters who organise a concert series or tour. Licensees send PRS reports of the music that has been played at a certain venue, and PRS invoices the venue or the promoter based on the music that has been reported. We have different tariffs for different types of venue or genre of music. Venues on the pop music tariff are invoiced for 3.3% of box office receipts, and venues on the classical tariff are invoiced for 4.8% of box office receipts. The royalty fee received by PRS is then distributed proportionally to all of the copyright works in the programme, based on their duration. It's important that PRS receives set lists or programme details for live music concerts so we can distribute royalties accurately. We usually receive these from licensees, but members can also report their own live performances to us. We've recently developed a new online tool to make it easier for our members to send this information to us. It will be launching in full in early 2017 and covers all live music venues. We'll be encouraging our members to make use of this tool, so if you're already a member of PRS, keep an eye out for our newsletters announcing any developments. PRS for Music will also be giving another webinar with ISM to look at live performance in more detail, with a demonstration of how to use this new tool for reporting performances. So look out for news on the ISM website for when this is taking place. PRS also licenses music when it is broadcast on radio and TV, covering over 600 radio stations and over 480 TV channels. The major channels are covered under licenses which include all of our members' repertoire if they have agreed for us to license broadcasts on their behalf. We receive accurate reporting of all music broadcast on the major radio stations and TV channels and distribute royalties according to the duration of music used. In addition, PRS licenses music for over 1,600 online services, including streaming services, music downloads, gaming, and video on demand. For the major music service providers, including Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud, we receive reporting of music usage which we match against our copyright database and invoice for the music usage reported. As streaming overtakes downloads, the amount of data we process continues to increase from 126 billion uses in 2012 to over 2 trillion uses in 2015. MCPS licenses mechanical income from recorded media, when music is recorded onto CDs, DVDs, and publishing cover mounts. A record label releasing a CD will obtain a license from MCPS, which will charge them a percentage of the CD dealer price for the copyright works on the CD. For most CDs, this is 8.5% of dealer price. When the royalty fee is received by MCPS, it's distributed proportionally between the works on the CD based on their duration. There is also a mechanical payment generated when music is first broadcast on TV, which is paid by MCPS. So the first time your music is broadcast on TV, it receives a PRS payment and an MCPS payment. If it's broadcast again, it will continue to generate PRS royalties every time it's broadcast, but the MCPS payment is only applicable to the first broadcast. Royalties from music downloads are made up of both performance and mechanical income. So in addition to your PRS payment for a music download, you'll also get one from PRS. The amount you earn in royalties depends on your share of the work, whether you are the only writer or share in the copyright in the work with other collaborators, and how the work has been used. For example, a 30-minute piece, which is part of a concert with a total duration of 100 minutes, could earn you approximately £100 if you are the only writer, and if 500 tickets were sold at a value of about £15 per ticket. If your music was used on TV or radio, you could receive approximately £100 for just over a minute's music on BBC One prime time, 6.5 minutes on BBC Radio 1, or just over 8 minutes on BBC Radio 3. When it comes to CD sales, it depends on the value of the CD, but it would take you approximately 120 album sales to earn £100 in royalties, or if your music is being sold online, around 2,000 downloads. Royalties typically take about 3 to 6 months from when the music was used to reach PRS and MCPS. PRS distributes performance royalties to its members in quarterly main distributions in April, July, October and December, and occasionally pays royalties in interim mini distributions. MCPS distributes mechanical royalties on a monthly basis, the month following the month in which the income was received. You can view our distribution schedule online for more information about different types of music usage and how long they take to reach PRS and MCPS. PRS for Music is a not-for-profit organisation whose members have agreed to deducting our administration expenses, which you can download from our website if you want to find out more about our commission rates. These rates reflect the running costs of providing services to our members, and after deducting these administration expenses, all the income we receive is distributed back to our members. Alongside PRS for Music, music publishers also play an important role in protecting and promoting the copyrights of songwriters and composers. When a songwriter or composer starts to earn royalties from their music, they may choose to sign a publishing agreement with the music publisher. This agreement assigns some or all of their copyrights or musical works to that publisher for a period of time known as the agreement term, during which the publisher has the right to administer the works included in the agreement and collect royalties on the composer's behalf. The publisher will often commit to promote and exploit the composer's works by securing commercial uses of those works, such as concerts through recording contracts or by sheet music, which all generate royalty payments. Sometimes the publisher will pay a composer an advance on royalties as an incentive when they sign an agreement, which has to be recouped during the term of the agreement. A music publisher collects royalties on the composer's behalf and accounts the composer either twice yearly or quarterly. The publishing agreement will specify how the composer will be paid and what the publisher's commission is, which is deducted from any payments. And this might vary for different types of income. Most songwriters and composers choose to join PRS as well as having a publishing agreement. If a composer is a member of PRS and does not work with a music publisher, PRS pays 100% of performance royalties to the composer. If a composer has an agreement with a music publisher, PRS collects 100% of performance royalties, and PRS rules state that the composer is entitled to receive 50% of those royalties directly from PRS, even when they have a publishing agreement with a music publisher to administer and collect their royalties. This is known as the writer's share. The other 50% is paid to the music publisher, who may pay a proportion of that 50% onto the composer under the terms of their publishing agreement, and this is known as the publisher's share. MCPS collects 100% of mechanical royalties, and if the composer is a member of MCPS and does not work with a music publisher, they will receive 100% of mechanical royalties directly. If the composer works with a music publisher, MCPS usually pays the entire 100% to the music publisher, which the publisher pays an agreed proportion of to the composer. It's important for unpublished or self-published composers to make sure that they join MCPS as well as PRS if their works are being recorded or broadcast, so they can collect any mechanical royalties that are due to them. There are certain rights that PRS for Music does not control in the majority of cases, which include synchronization rights, where the music is synchronized to moving images in films and advertisements, grand rights, where music is used in a dramatic production such as opera, ballet or musical theatre, and print and hire rights, which cover the production and hire of sheet music. The licensing of these types of music usage are usually referred to as direct licensing, because they're licensed directly by either the composer or their music publisher, depending on whether they have a publishing agreement and what that agreement covers. It's particularly important for unpublished or self-published composers to know that these rights belong to them and can be negotiated with music users and paid directly to the composer. For more information, look on the ISM website for their Composers Pack and Self-Publishing Pack. If you grant your rights to PRS or MCPS worldwide, they can also collect income when your music is used overseas, because PRS and MCPS have reciprocal agreements with other collecting societies around the world. So all of the same types of income we looked at earlier, public performance, broadcast, online and recorded media, are being licensed and collected by societies in other countries. If you have a publishing agreement with a music publisher, PRS will collect your writer's share of performance income from overseas, and your publisher will collect the publisher's share, either directly from overseas societies or through a network of overseas sub-publishers who administer the publisher's works in overseas territories. To recap, we've discussed how PRS and MCPS license their members' music, how royalties are generated, and what the relationship is between composers, music publishers, and PRS for music. Here, we can see the process overview from the beginning, when a musical work is created and registered with PRS for music, and made available to the public by the composer or songwriter themselves, or their publisher or label. The work is then downloaded or bought on CD, played live or broadcast, and usage data is collected from licensees. PRS for music calculates the royalties payable to composers and songwriters and distributes it accordingly, therefore beginning the process again. For those of you who aren't already members of PRS or MCPS, you might be wondering when is the right time to join. If you're a composer or a songwriter and your music is being performed live, broadcast on radio or TV, or made available online, you could be earning performance royalties from PRS for the use of your music. You can join by filling in an online application form via our website. There's a one-off fee of £100 to join, and once you're a member you have access to the members sections of our website, where you can find information about how to register your works, as well as more information about how we license music. You also have access to our member services team, which can help with queries, and receive newsletters and updates regarding licensing, policy, and information about our regular member events. If your music is being recorded and made available to the public via physical products, broadcast, or online, you could be earning mechanical royalties from MCPS. The joining fee for MCPS is also £100, and you can join via the same link on the PRS for Music website. Some composers choose not to join MCPS because if they have a record deal and are releasing music commercially, they often sign a publishing agreement and their publisher collects their mechanical royalties. However, if you are self-releasing or you decide you don't need a publisher, you should join MCPS to make sure you can collect your mechanical royalties. When you join PRS for Music, or if you're already a member, make sure that all of your works are registered on our database. While a work is protected by copyright automatically from the moment you create it, you do need to register your works with us so you can collect and distribute royalties from the organisations who use your music. You can find useful how-to videos on our website to take you through the process of registering works and searching our database. Make sure we have your correct and up-to-date contact details so you receive our newsletters and information and, importantly, so we know where to pay your royalties to. As we mentioned before, you can also report live performances to us via our website and send us programs or set lists that include your works using our new online reporting tool. Look out for a follow-up webinar with ISM and PRS for Music, where we explore live performance licensing and reporting in more detail, and we'll also run through how the new online reporting tool works.
Harriet, thank you very much indeed for a very clear exposition of what can be a very complicated subject, and I hope that our audience has enjoyed that. There's a lot of information there. We do have a number of questions, so I think let's have a look at the first question that we've received. This is from Christina. Christina, thank you for sending this in to us. The question that we have is, can PRS collect royalties for a performance of a work which has been registered with PRS by the composer after that performance?
Yes, you can. It's easiest if you tell us and register the work within 12 months of the performance happening, because that makes it easier for us to collect those royalties. But it is possible to register the work after a performance and receive royalties for that. If you're concerned that we might not know about the performance or you haven't received royalties when you think you should have, you can contact our Member Services Department and query that performance with us, and we can make sure that it was licensed and that we've received the programme, including your work.
Thank you, Harriet. And again, Christina, thank you very much for that question. I have another two questions, in fact, from Ian. Thank you for sending those in. Ian asks the following. I write mostly choral music, often performed at concerts in churches. Are these venues licensed like concert halls? And the second part of the question, also, what is the copyright position about choirs hiring out music that they bought to other choirs? Harriet, are you able to give us a view on that?
Yes, concerts in churches are licensed in a variety of different ways. Some churches who have regular concerts are licensed as concert venues, and some churches are licensed under different licensing schemes through CCLI or through Making Music. Depending on the sort of license that the venue has, depends on the sort of royalties that you will receive from that. But that's again something that you can query with us if you have a question about a specific venue.
Jolly good. CCLI?
That's the Christian Churches Licensing Body.
Indeed. It's a separate organisation which looks specifically after this area, which is why Harriet is effectively referring beyond the borders of PRS for music in this instance.
Yes, they do pay a licence fee to PRS, and
Right.
we can distribute on the income that we receive from them. We don't always receive complete programmes though, so if you're concerned that the church your music is being performed at doesn't have a concert venue licence, and we might need some more information about that, please do get in touch with us.
Great, thank you very much. In similar vein, you may have covered some of this ground. Rob, thank you very much for your question. Rob's interested in the rules on performance during religious services and asked for a summary of the main points.
This one's quite simple. We don't license music when it's used as part of a religious service.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. And we now have a question from Adam. Adam, thank you for your question. Adam is a Canadian composer living in Europe, and he asks, would it benefit me to join PRS as a foreigner and even MCPS for the mechanical royalties? Or would it be best for me to join another Canadian version of PRS, i.e. SOCAN?
We would normally advise that it's best for a composer to join a society of the country that they're either living in or receiving most uses of their work in, because that means that's the place that you're earning most of your royalties, and you'll get them more quickly if you're a member of a society in that country. It is possible to be a member of more than one society, so if your work is both very popular in Canada and in the UK, you might want to consider joining both of those societies. You could join one of them for worldwide, excluding the UK, for example, and then just join PRS for the UK. It's entirely up to you. So the main thing is to focus on where your music is being used and where you're going to earn most royalties from.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Harriet. Dan has sent us a question, and he asks, is music used in theatre productions covered under a PRS agreement in the same way as original music used in concert halls?
Music which is written for theatre and used as background or incidental music is covered by PRS. It's a different tariff to our concert hall performance tariff, but it is licensed by PRS. Music which is written for musical theatre productions, opera, ballet, contemporary dance. Anything that's written for a dramatic production as an integral part of that production is not licensed by PRS. So that would either be licensed by you as the composer, or if you work with a music publisher, it might be licensed by a music publisher or agent.
And those are the things that I think you could grand rights on the presentation.
Yes, those are grand rights.
Is there such a thing as small rights, and if so, what are they and how do they get licensed?
Well, I suppose small rights would be music that isn't being used in a dramatic context. Right. So that would include your music used as background music in theatre, also live performance, anything like that.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've got a question here from Gail. Does a composer or songwriter have to copyright their music before joining PRS, or does PRS cover copyright?
No, when you write a piece of music, it's automatically protected by copyright. So there isn't anything you have to do to make it be protected by copyright. What PRS does is administer the copyright in your works and license uses of your works to music users. We then collect royalties on your behalf and distribute those to you for the use of your music.
One point just to bear in mind in relation to when does copyright protection come into being, as Harriet says, there's no formal requirement for you to do anything, except that in the case of musical works and some other categories of copyright work, it has to be fixed in some way. So you need to either write it down in notation or whatever form, or you need to record it or do something so that it exists in some shape or form. That's in the Copyright Act. It has to be fixed in some way for copyright to subsist. Otherwise, there's no formality that's then required. Copyright will exist at the moment that you've fix your composition. All right, thank you, Gail. Got another question from Adam here, our Canadian friend. His concern mainly is mechanical royalties, and he asks, as he is and has been a member of SOCAN for years, okay, I think that's just an observation. Thank you. I hope we've answered that question, Adam, but do come back to us if you need some more. Rob asks, are performance royalties due when a gig might classify as private or by invitation only?
If it's private and invitation only and no tickets are being sold, then it wouldn't normally be licensed by PRS. But we do license some performances which take place in private homes. Usually that would be licensed under a promoter's license or a one-off permit. So if you thought your music was being performed in that context, you might want to talk to the person that was putting that event on and speak to them about whether they have a license in place.
Okay, thank you very much, Harriet, and Rob, thank you for that question too. We have another question from Christina, and Christina asks us this: does a composer need to register with MCPS if he/she has electronic, acoustic, fixed media music played in an event or concert/spectacle in order to receive royalties for these works?
That would usually come under the category of performance. So I would expect that the royalties that you would receive from that sort of performance would come through PRS rather than MCPS.
Okay, thank you very much, Harriet. Okay, we're just going to have a moment. Here we go. We've got some more questions coming through. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, Fiona, thank you for your question. Good afternoon. Fiona asks, do UK resident composers, members of PRS, need to join, for example, BMI separately before PRS can collect their US royalties, assuming that PRS members have nominated BMI to collect for them in the USA?
It's not necessary to join BMI as well. If you've joined PRS worldwide, then we can collect royalties on your behalf from all collecting societies. In the USA, because you have a couple of societies to choose from, you can just choose which one you prefer to receive your royalties through. But if you're a member of PRS worldwide, the royalties that BMI collects, for example, will be then paid to PRS, which we will then pay to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question on the international royalties. This is from Andrew. Thank you very much. How does PRS receive information about a work's performances overseas? And how would an international agency know to return royalties to a PRS registered composer in the UK?
Well, the way it works licensing music overseas is very similar to here. So if a performance is taking place overseas, the venue would contact their local collecting society. They would have a license to do that, and they would report the information about the performance. That society would have access to shared databases or information that we have about our members' works. So if they received royalties for you with your name and under the title of one of your works, we know that that work was belonging to a composer who was a member of PRS, and they would pay that to us. We also have an international team working within PRS for music. So if you have queries about your works that are being performed overseas, or you're concerned about a performance being licensed overseas, you can actually get in touch with us proactively and tell us when those are happening. So we can be in touch with the society in that country, and they can talk to the licensee, which would be the venue or the promoter who's putting on the concert over there.
Thanks very much, Harriet. I think that shows how connected PRS for music is with its international counterparts and the degree of synergy between them in order to get the right royalties to the right person at the right time.
Absolutely, and it works both ways as well for composers who are members of overseas societies and whose works receive performances or other royalties that are generated in the UK. We similarly collect royalties and pay them to those overseas societies, which pay them onto their members.
Great, thank you very much. Got another question from Gail here. Thank you very much. Can you please explain the difference between mechanical, MCPS, and performance, PRS, in relation to royalties?
So PRS licenses performance income, which is when music is performed live, or when it's broadcast on TV or the radio, or when it's streamed or downloaded online. Mechanical royalties and MCPS relate to when a piece of music is recorded onto a physical product usually. So it's to do with reproduction rights and when a CD or a DVD is made, and also applies to digital downloads as well because there's a mechanical element in the download.
What about sheet music?
Sheet music isn't licensed by PRS or MCPS.
Right.
That's a completely separate right.
Right.
That's owned by the composer, or if they work with a music publisher, their music publisher.
Right. Thank you very much. We have another question from Christina, who asks us this. In which cases can a venue deny PRS the payment of royalties on behalf of a composer?
I'm not aware of any circumstances in which a venue has a right to do that. If they want to perform live music in the UK, then they do need a PRS license from us. If the venue doesn't have a license and we don't know that the performance is taking place, if we find out about that because one of our members has come to us to say that they haven't received royalties from a particular venue, that creates a licensing lead that we can then follow up and work with the venue to make sure they have the correct license in place.
Right, thank you very much. We've got a question now from Michael. Thank you very much, Michael. If you write music under a pseudonym, how do you register that pseudonym for your sole use? And how do any payments come through to the actual composer?
I'm not sure if it's possible to register a pseudonym for your sole use, but it is possible to join PRS under your real name and then add a pseudonym in to that membership. So even if payments come through under a pseudonym, if there's a link in our database that connects your pseudonym to your real name, we'll be able to pay you those royalties.
Okay, thank you very much. Christina, thanks again for coming back to us. Just following up on the reporting point here. Christina asks, can you do this for overseas venues too? That is to say, chase the venue in case it is denied payment of royalties.
Absolutely. If you're worried that you haven't received royalties from an overseas performance, you can get in touch with us and our international team will work with the society in that country to contact the venue or the promoter and make sure that it's licensed.
Okay. All right. Here we go. We've got a question here from Derek. Derek, thank you for joining us this afternoon and thank you for the question. A further question on house concerts. If a singer-songwriter set up a living room tour, what is the likely procedure? Wouldn't the house owner decline to host the concert if they felt that they were getting out of their debts? Harriet, what's your take on that? Very interesting question.
Yes, it is. I mean, I think, there are more and more performances happening in what we wouldn't call usual concert venues. And of course, as the living room tours, as you say, are getting more and more popular. It's possible if you want to put on a living room tour, what we would usually do is recommend that the person organising that gets a licence as a promoter from us because that would cover all of the places, all of the houses that they wanted to go to. Alternatively, each individual venue could get a permit for a one-off license, but I think it's probably easier if whoever's organising the tour gets a single license as a promoter to cover all the houses in that tour.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting question, Derek, and very it's what's going on more and more, as you say. So,
definitely.
And an interesting switch from the venue having to be licensed to an individual taking a license that they carry around to a number of different sites.
Yes, I think it's really interesting to see that the way the live music sector is developing. And of course, one of the things that we do at PRS for Music is make sure that we keep up with all of those developments. Yep. So we have ways of licensing music that's used in slightly different circumstances.
Thank you very much. Gail's come back to us with another question. Thank you, Gail. Will churches need to register with PRS if they arrange live concerts?
Yes, if they're performing, I think, more than 5 or 6 music concerts a year, then they do need to have a PRS licence. As we mentioned earlier, there are some exceptions to that if they're covered under a making music licence or a CCLI licence. But any venue performing, including churches or village halls, if they're performing live music, then they do need to have some sort of a licence to be able to do that.
Great. Many thanks. Let's just see if we've got any more questions lined up. Yeah, here we go. Andrew, thanks for your question. How do large sites with constantly running background music loops, for example, a theme park or hotel, report the music tracks used?
So those are a little bit different because it's impossible to know every single business that has background music playing all the time and what's being used. What we do for those types of venues or those types of music usages is create an analogy based on the sort of music that we have evidence of being used at those places. We build this up from a number of different ways, from collecting data at some sites. We've worked with a mathematician to create some statistics of how to compile this information. We also look at what's currently being played in the charts on popular radio stations. So we use an analogy to create a data set of what we believe the music is most likely to be that's being used in those contexts, and we distribute it to those members accordingly.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed, Harry. Thanks, Andrew, for that question. Another interesting question. Let's just see if we've got any more lined up. Indeed we do. Jolly good. All right, we've got a question here from Luke, who asks, are the rules for licenses the same for live performances by children in schools as they are for concert halls?
Yes, schools also need to have performance licenses from PRS. Obviously, if they're not charging for their concerts, which they usually wouldn't be, they wouldn't be licensed on the same sort of tariff, but they will have a license for live performance.
Thank you very much. Claire sent us a question. She says, hello Claire. If your song is played as hold music, and I think she means by on the telephone, that sort of thing, how does it work receiving royalties?
This is an interesting question, and one that I actually don't know the answer to off the top of my head. But I think what's most likely is that the music that's usually used by companies who play hold music is acquired by that company as a buyout, which means they don't have to pay royalties on it. That's the case with a lot of music that's used in those contexts. In terms of music that, popular music that's being used, songs that are in the charts and things like that, I believe that we have a special license that covers that. I'd need to get back to you to confirm which one that is, but I know ISM will have your contact details from taking part in the webinar, so I'll follow up with you offline if that's okay.
Thanks very much, Harry. Claire, thank you very much indeed. Very interesting question. Christina, hello again. Christina asks, if my music is broadcast on TV as part of a live coverage of an event, do I need to report this as a performance, or does the television station need a particular permission from me in advance?
So if it's a TV broadcast of a live event, you could actually receive royalties from two sources there. There's the live performance itself, and then there's also the TV broadcast. We receive data from all of the major TV stations about the music that's covered in their broadcasts. So we would normally receive that automatically, and that would include the duration that your music was played for.
Okay, thank you very much. So there's a number of touch points from which royalties could be generated in the scenario that Christina described.
That's right, yes.
Okay. All right, we've got a question from Andrew, who asked about the larger sites, hotels and theme parks earlier. Andrew asks, if I know one of my works is being performed at a large site on a background loop, but would not fall into the large categories of pop or chart tracks, would it fall to me to report the usage on a quarterly or annual basis?
I think this question might be best if we take it offline and I get in touch with you directly, Andrew. The reason for that is because we do sample some large sites like that. So it might be that your work comes into one of the sites that we visit and collect data for. But obviously I'd need to check that to know. So if I can get in touch with you after the webinar, we'll follow up and look into it for you further.
Okay, thanks Andrew, and thanks Harriet for following up with Andrew after this webinar is over. We've got a question now from Fiona again. Hello again. Who collects the performers' royalties, for example, in a recording of a live concert, assuming that they don't sign over their rights for an upfront fee at the time of performance?
In a recording of a live concert, the performance rights would usually be licensed by PPL, which is Phonographic Performance Limited. They're a collecting society just like ours, but they look after performance rights and rights that exist in recordings.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Gail, thank you again. Coming back to the issue of a promoter obtaining a license, could you please elaborate? Will that license cover all performances?
Yes, if the promoter comes to us and tells us where that they would like to give the performances, we can issue a license that covers all of those performances. It won't be an open-ended license, so you would need to state where you're performing and how many performances there will be.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, let's see if we've got any more coming through. It's all looking a little bit quiet out there, but we'll just give you a couple more seconds if you're in the middle of typing something. All right. I think we've probably come to the end of our questions. First of all, a very big thank you to Harriet for taking us through all this with such clarity and for answering up these many very good questions from our audience today. I'm very, very grateful to you for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you again next year for the follow-up session, which we'll be announcing once we've set up some dates. So do check the website for further news on that. In terms of where we are now, I think that we will be closing this session now. Do we? Yeah, okay. And we will be putting it up on the website. So do check for that in a few days. And if you do have any other questions for Harriet or for me here at the ISM, please do get in touch with us. You can find all our contact details either at PRS or on the ISM website. You can get hold of us easily enough. So don't forget to visit ism.org. Don't forget to visit prsformusic.com. Thank you. There's loads of information on there. You'll find it really helpful. Thank you all for joining us. It's been good. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for the many brilliant questions. We look forward to seeing you in the new year for more on this subject. But for now, from me and Harriet, we're signing off, and maybe wish you all the best for the season and the new year. Thank you very much.